Hey there guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we are looking at why Atraxa, the Praetors voice, is still the number one commander in EDH Rec and in general most playgroups. She is an insane commander that came out all the way back in 2016 and she's been terrorizing players since. She has over 35,000 decks registered on EDH Rec. The only other commanders that come near her in terms of number of decks is the Dragon at 27,000, Yoriko at 22.5, Kenrith at 21.5, and a mono red Krenko at 21,000. She towers above other commanders in popularity. So she was released in the first set of Commander 2016. She had a printing in Commander Anthology Volume 2. She had a printing in Double Masters as normal. She had a full art or alt art of her as well in Double Masters. She had a secret lair drop. She also appeared in Multi Legends from the Marching Machine set. She also had an etched printing from that set too. What makes her pretty bonkers is her pretty strong stat line as a single card. She has 4 mana in green, white, blue and black, missing red, but arguably the best colour combination you can really have. She has Flying, Vigilance, Death Touch and Lifelink, which all relate to her colours. She's been errata to be a Phyrexian Angel Horror now. She's a 4/4 body with, at the beginning of your end step, Proliferate. Proliferate is such a wide-reaching mechanic and it can abuse and break a lot of things in Magic. You choose any number of permanents and or players, and then give them another count of each kind already there. She just takes everything on your board and ticks it up 1. That's the idea. A lot of her strength comes from brand new sets bringing a lot of tools. Counters are prevalent throughout all of Magic's history, whether it be the form of Infect, Poison, Planeswalker loyalty counters, 1/1 counters, charge counters, they're just everywhere. So if they're in your colours, they could be a tool for Atraxa. But other sets bring lots of support through, like Toxic. Phyrexian All Will Be One brought tons of Infection Toxic support for her, where War of the Spark brought tons of Planeswalker support for her. There's always new tools coming in for Atraxa. The ways that Atraxa can be built are what make her really powerful. She can be built as a Planeswalker only commander, where she ticks all the Planeswalkers up to their ultimates and just wins through domination. She can be a really strong competitive Infection commander, possibly the best option. She can be a general counters commander, you can have 1/1 counters, charge counters going on. Or you can play as Phyrexian Tribal, all are totally viable. Or in most cases, people just run a bit of everything counters good stuff really with her. When it comes to Planeswalkers with Atraxa, the Ikamoon Gauntlet lets your Planeswalkers have Proliferate and take an extra turn. The Chain Veil and Oath of Defray let you activate your Planeswalkers again. Doubling Season lets your Planeswalkers enter with double loyalty. In a lot of cases, they can ultimate straight out the gate. And then you just ram the deck full of your favourite Planeswalkers, a couple which just seem really good with her. Like Vraska, the Betrayal Sting. She gives you Proliferate and Draw and dumps a ton of poison counters on players. Oko gives you great removal in the form of making creatures just 3/3 vanillas. Narset just dig through your library and stops people drawing extra cards, and you can recharge her too with Atraxa's ability. Ugin does it all. He deals damage, he removes things, he can draw you a ton of cards late game, he does everything. The Linear Veil is a cheap aggressive Planeswalker attacking their hand, making people sacrifice creatures, and then if you get her really big, just wreck their board. Elspeth can make a huge board presence just by dumping out weenies, and maybe a board wipe for the bigger things. Vronus gives your Planeswalkers protection, and his art is sick by the way. She can also be the best Infection commander, because now poison counters can be put on player through Infection, Toxic, and the actual mechanic Poison. There's multiple ways to give people these poison counters. Remember, you get to 10, you die, there's nothing around it. You've got the Blight Dragon, which is a 4/4 beater with Flying, Infect, and can gain haste in black. You've got the Unblockable Blighted Agent. You've got the Bloating Contaminator, which is a really aggressive proliferator getting on your opponent. She might be the best Infection commander by far. She gives you all the colours you care about, lots of Proliferate, lots of support. As long as you get 1 counter on your opponent, that's it. They're probably going to die. You can build her with just anything that cares about counters. As long as you see the word counter, just chuck it in there and it'll probably do okay. Energy Chamber is a card that lets you put counters or charge counters on your things. Inroxable Tide lets you proliferate every time you cast a spell. The Dominus lets you double proliferate every time you do, and it can become indestructible itself. Gaia Surge can become the biggest mana dork in the game with Atraxa. Mana Gorger can be such a big beatstick. Little Bristly Bill here can make a ton of counters on all your creatures. Or the Walking Ballista can just start shooting everything dead thanks to Atraxa. You've got Phyrexian support now with Atraxa through the form of incubation tokens, which are not creatures until you pay the 2 mana to flip them over, and the size of the equal number of counters you've been incubating on them. It gives you a way to avoid board wipes removal until you want to flip the creature over. They're quite cheap and aggressive, and they're really efficient for what they can do. Brimars puts a ton of tokens out every time you cast a Phyrexian or an artifact spell. The Exarch's a double X spell that can dump a few out there. Essence of Orthodoxy, every time you have a Phyrexian enter your battlefield, you incubate 2. Glister can be a way to flip them over for free. You've got a board wipe even for this kind of tribe that exiles all creatures and you do one big fat incubation. The new Elish Norn, when she flips, incubates 5 times. You've even got just straight up Phyrexian Tribal, where they all get 1/1. Phyrexian Tribal look great, you've got really grim, gory, dark art to it. Such a cool mechanic, and the deck actually does pretty well. So what does Atraxa break, and this is kind of why she's so good. When it comes to Planeswalkers, she makes cheap, aggressive Planeswalkers get up really quick, quicker than people can deal with. She makes Planeswalkers which can only go down, never technically die, you can keep activating things like Ashiok here. She breaks things like charge counters, which are meant to be a scalable effect. So like, take Astral Cornucopia, you would pay X as 1, 1, and 1, so you're paying 3 mana total to produce 1 mana, or you can pay 6 mana to produce 2 mana with it. But with Atraxa, you can pay the 1, enter with 1 counter on it, and build it up from there. She makes anything with charge counters become super mana efficient for what they are. She also breaks anything which we could deem like a limited resource. So a Pented Prism, because of Sunburst, enters with 2 counters, you remove a counter to get a mana, with no limits to how many times you can do it. But once you've used your 2 charge counters, no more mana. Well, as long as you leave 1 behind, Atraxa can keep replenishing it, even stockpile up those charge counters and draw a ton off for a ton of mana. She lets you bank mana in weird ways. Even the same way in storage lands like the Calciform pools, they can tap for normal mana, or you can slowly start stockpiling up mana. With her, you don't even have to pay the cost. As long as you've got a counter on there, just keep proliferating it and adding more and more and more. And she's really good for those big dumb payoff cards which are typically slow to activate, but they're really fun in Commander. Good old Darksteel Reactor, 20 counters on it, you win the game. You get 1 for free at the beginning of your upkeep, and you can add another one at the end step, let alone what your deck is doing at the same time. Lux Cannon, you put a charge counter on it, remove 3, destroy target permanent. With a good Atraxa setup, you could be blowing up a permanent every turn with Lux Cannon. You can actually attack the land base with it. I don't know how coherent or well structured this video will turn out. It's more of an essay looking at Atraxa, why she is just still the best commander after 8 years and she's really hard to beat. She's such a well costed, like a mid cost commander. She's not too cheap like a throwaway commander, but she's not painful to cast every time. She has some of the best colors in Commander by far. Sorry, mono red players. She's well costed at 4 mana with a 4/4 body with tons of combat keywords. She has a rule that's always going to be relevant, with new sets bringing potential new tools every time. There's always cool stuff going through the Atraxa decks, really. And she doesn't require insane combos just to go off. She just exists, upticks everything on your side of the board or your opponent's affection counters, and just does a lot of things for you at the same time. She's just a profit commander. I love her. I'm really tempted to build myself a Planeswalker commander because of her. Yeah, I don't know if she'll ever be beaten as the #1 commander unless they ban her, which I don't think they ever would. Alright, thank you guys for watching. I appreciate the support. Give us a like and a sub. We're going for 5k. And thank you to my patrons. I cannot appreciate you guys enough. I've started it up again. I will flush it out a little bit more. I just got it kind of restored. But thank you guys so much for your support and have a good one. Bye.